Hello everyone and welcome to Mianite Behind the Scenes. This is the first of several videos that will demonstrate and discuss the inner workings of running the Mianite show through Minecraft.
Now before we go any further, I think we should explain what Mianite is and what sort of topics we want to cover more in depth. Don't worry, we won't go over this in every video.
We're well aware of the Wadsworth constant.
But making sure we're all on the same page seems like a pretty good idea.
First, the obvious question, what is Mianite? The World of Mianite is a Twitch and YouTube series that features several popular streamers playing together, interacting and exploring together in a Minecraft world.
It was started by Syndicate and Jericho, who were soon joined by Firefox and CaptainSparklez, and in the second season they added Waglington to the mix. So side note, be sure to check them all out. In addition to Mianite, they all create fantastic videos on their own. The links are in the description.
So, Mianite sounds like a typical survival multiplayer series, right? What makes Mianite different is the unique twist on traditional role-playing. The streamers in Mianite aren't role-playing as characters, but they're just acting as themselves. But the world they are in has its own lore, created by people working behind the scenes.
That's us.
The streamers aren't told about beforehand. When they log in and play, they can do their own thing, experience events, encounter gods, meet NPCs,
Hey, we're not bots, you know.
and in general experience an actively changing world. It helps keep it fresh and new, and when they have to discover the story on their own, or probably more often when they have to figure out how to undo the prank that occurred when they logged off.
I didn't do anything. Why are you blaming me?
I don't know what you did, but you did something. You did something.
Like, say, their entire inventory being replaced with garlic bread.
I'm not sure Waglington found that all funny.
Maybe not, but I sure did.
Right, anyway, while most of the time Mianite's built off the players having fun together or interacting with their gods, there's a bigger story that's being told, slowly, over the course of each season. However, we're not going to try and explain the actual storyline to you.
You should probably watch the actual show for that. The reason we're putting together these videos is to show some of the technical side of how the world worked. Things like planning and building an episode, mod machinery, redstone contraptions, command blocks, or just random anecdotes of things that happened as we worked on it. It's pretty cool that people are so curious about it all, and we're excited to get to show it to you.
So that's a brief overview of what Mianite is and what we're trying to do with this behind the scenes series. Now on to our first topic. Who the hell are we? Now, a little disclaimer before we go on, there's been 2 seasons of Mianite with completely different teams on each. This series is going to focus on Season 2 because that's the season we're from. For Season 2, the streamers contracted with Blockworks, an incredible group of builders, to create the story and construct the sets that were going to be used. Blockworks split the task into 2 teams, the build team, which was responsible for creating the sets in the Mianite world, and the behind the scenes story team, which was headed up by Blockworks member Chimalus, as the lead writer. In addition to Chimalus, the behind the scenes team had several additional members working as volunteers for various roles. Chimalus, the lead writer and actor, Ralpren, writer and actor, Lady Krystine, writer and actor, MrMadSpy, that's me, Mod, Redstone, command block expert, and Zine, that's him, actor, mod expert, and hooligan.
With such a wide array of talents and abilities, each of us had different strengths, and we all helped each other out by contributing what we were best at. Kind of.
That's how we like to think of it now. The reality though, Mianite is something that's never been done before. There's no training for it, and there's no way to really explain how hard it is to try and plan and prepare a story that when you don't have any idea what the actors are going to do, or even when they're actually going to do it.
We all had to learn it as we went, and there were days where things went well,
And days where it failed spectacularly.
So, to be blunt, when we all started, we really had no idea what we were doing. But we all loved the show, we worked hard, and by the end we were starting to get pretty good at it. So let's move on to the next topic, an outline of how an event episode was constructed.
While the story in most days took a few hours to set up and was built nightly, occasionally there would be full-blown major event days where the heroes would be taken to a new area or on some adventure. These event days typically took weeks for the builders to construct and several days for the story team to arrange and plan for. A good example of one of these days was when the heroes were taken to the architect's reactor for the first time to meet the architect himself.
And an event episode of Mianite takes a lot of time and hard work to create, and loosely involves a lot of different stages. It all starts with an idea and a story stage, where either one of us comes up with the fun idea that we then fit into the story, or something that needs to happen in the story. So we come up with the idea of how we want to present it.
In this case, the visit to the architect's reactor was driven by the story. The architect was a character that had been hinted about and teased since the very beginning of the season, and it was time for the heroes to finally meet this mysterious character.
The architect was the character I was originally brought onto the team to play. He had this sort of larger-than-life reputation around the world as the right-hand man of Mianite, and no one really knew much about him outside of the legends.
But once the idea was set and the story written, the story team had to work with the build team to get the reactor created in-game, and then they needed to come up with a plan for getting the heroes to the site and what would happen when they were there.
In the weeks leading up to the event, I had already placed a number of small clues and interactions to seed the hero's interest in the architect and his reactor. I'd also created a character called DG Worker, whose CaptainSparklez had been corresponding with, and he was going to be responsible to get the heroes to the location. The build team had been working on the reactor location for several weeks and continued practically until the night before the event. As they were getting close, James from Blockworks had me come visit the set and get all the turbines running, as well as setting up the max-size vertical one in the center of the site. Jordan spent some time trying to figure out how much power it was creating and where he could tap into it. Even when he read it was at 0 RF per tick, I don't think he realized that it wasn't actually generating any power since there wasn't an induction coil set up inside the turbine. Sure looked cool though.
After the main construction and the reactor pieces were all finished, the last piece of the puzzle was adding the NPCs, finishing the decorations, and adding any command blocks that were going to be used.
The redstone and command blocks used in an episode are all added after the main build has been completed. This could be anything from custom monsters or puzzles, to interactive elements, and special effects. In the Architect episode, this was completed quicker than average, since there wasn't a lot of command blocks effects being used. I only had to use them to create the Architect NPCs workers that didn't wander off like normal certificates.
With the preparations all set up, the only thing left to do was wait for the event and then play their parts during the show itself. Of course, even with all the plannings, things didn't always go according to plan.
Something that would always go wrong, always. You're creating the whole elaborate setup. You're doing it live in front of thousands of people, and half the people involved don't have any idea what the hell you're doing, or what you're even trying to get them to do.
In the reactor episode, one of the things that popped up was that I played the Irulu DG worker who was supposed to get the heroes to the reactor, where they would then meet the architect, who I also played. It wasn't until the show had already started that I had realized that I needed to find a spot in the reactor for the architect to be standing in when the heroes arrived, and I needed a way to get there before the heroes did, even though they left in front of me. The reactor design had a nice control room overlooking everything, but it didn't actually have a way to get into it. It was encased entirely in glass. So the show had started, we've told the streamers that things are happening today, and I'm desperately trying to create a hallway and stairwell from the control room to the main area that didn't look out of place. So, naturally, Tucker decides to crash the server.
Tucker was trying to experiment with his old biome-changing blob magic and decided the server needed a restart. So he helped make that happen.
I'm like, oh geez, build, crash. Fortunately, we got everything sorted out in time before they arrived. Another issue was that the streamers were talking in TeamSpeak to each other and actually asking questions of my character through voice. They would eventually type something out, but most of the interaction was on their TeamSpeak, which I was not in. I had to wait for the stream delay before I could hear what they were asking. Tucker even started getting a little annoyed at the slow responses, and I'm just here like, I'm trying, man, I really am.
After a surprise visit from Mianite and some conversation back and forth, the event finishes, and the heroes head back to finish off the episode however they like, leaving the story team to finish up and begin planning the next day.
Sometimes at the end of a nice, stressful episode, I like to sit back, relax, drink some tea.
He also likes pina coladas and taking walks in the dreary English rain. But that's not what we would actually do after an episode finished. We had to read our report card and see what needed improving.
We would monitor reactions on social media, read Reddit or Tumblr comments, and in many cases actually talk in response to the fans.
We would also watch the episode back from different streamers' perspectives to fully understand their reactions and feedback to the event. There were a lot of things you missed in the chaos of the live stream.
Finally, after a few hours of the episode, that's when we actually be done.
And that's right about when Jim would want to start planning the next day's events. Finally, to finish off this episode, we wanted to answer a few of the questions we've been asked by the fans. If you have questions you would like us to answer, be sure to tweet them to us. This one comes from Sir Welchmertz. Sir Welchmertz? Welchmertzen! I don't know, I don't speak German. But, at any rate, can you explain some about the skins and the artists who worked on them? Various character skins were provided by either Blockworks member Das Malo or Ernest701. Or in the case of DG Worker, I actually just killed a priest test certificate and then used the morph mod to assume that look.
Second question by a fan called Carrot66, whatever, asks, who is controlling the gods in Season 2? Okay, Lady Ina and Mianite were both controlled by Chimalus, with Dynamite being played by Ralpren.
So that's a really quick outline of making a special event episode. In our next video, we will discuss the server and some of the challenges we faced trying to keep it working in the face of everything the streamers were doing to that poor world. And if there's anything in particular you would like us to explain, be sure to leave a comment letting us know so we can try and fill you in. Till next time, I'm Zine.
And I'm MrMadSpy.
Make sure to subscribe and leave a like. We'll see you in the next episode.